The elevator doors opened, and everything changed. But that's not where this story begins. It begins with a man who was tired, not ordinary tiredness, but the deep, cellular exhaustion of someone who had been performing for 20 years, who had been famous for almost as long as he could remember, who had become so intertwined with his own legend that he sometimes forgot where Elvis Presley ended and the myth began. It was May 27, 1974. The Sahara Tahoe Hotel rose against the Nevada sky, its neon signs reflecting off the dark waters of Lake Tahoe below. Inside the High Sierra Theater, Elvis had just finished what would be his final show of this engagement. A 2-hour performance that had left him drained, sweat-soaked, and inexplicably sad. He was 39 years old. In his dressing room, Elvis sat in front of the mirror and studied the face looking back at him. The face of a man who had changed the world, who had made teenage girls scream and parents clutch their pearls in horror. The face of a man who had lost his mother 16 years ago and had never stopped missing her. The face of a man whose marriage had ended the year before, whose daughter was growing up too fast, whose body was starting to betray him. He was wearing the white jumpsuit, the one with the high collar and rhinestones. A thick terry cloth towel was draped around his neck, catching the sweat that still ran down his face. But tonight, something felt off. The show had been good. The crowd had responded the way they always did, with screams and tears, and that particular kind of worship he had never learned to accept. He had sung Suspicious Minds and watched grown women weep. He had done everything right, and yet there was a hollowness in his chest he couldn't explain. The altitude at Lake Tahoe always affected him. 6,000 feet above sea level. Thin air that made his lungs work harder. But this was different. This felt like something more. Charlie Hodge knocked on the door. "Elvis, the Jackson boys are here. They're opening tomorrow night. Colonel thought you might want to—" "I know who they are," Elvis said, not turning from the mirror. He did know. Everyone knew. The Jackson 5 had exploded onto American consciousness 5 years earlier with I Want You Back. They were young, impossibly young. The lead singer barely a teenager, and they had the kind of energy Elvis remembered having once before the movies and the Vegas residencies and the weight of being Elvis Presley. "I already introduced them during the show," Elvis said. "Told people they should come see them tomorrow. Called them one of the hottest bands around." "That's great, E. Real generous of you." Elvis turned finally, and Charlie saw something in his eyes he didn't quite recognize. Not sadness exactly, but something adjacent to it. Something like recognition. "They any good?" Elvis asked. "In person, I mean. Not the records." "They're phenomenal," Charlie admitted. "The little one, Michael, he's something else. Moves like nothing I've ever seen. And he's what, 15? 15. Elvis nodded slowly. He remembered being 15. He remembered practicing moves that would scandalize a nation. Dreaming of something he couldn't articulate but could feel in every fiber of his being. "I'm going to take a walk," Elvis said. Charlie's eyebrows rose. "A walk? There's 1,000 people out there who just watched your show. If you go wandering around, then they'll see me wandering around." Elvis stood, adjusting the collar of his jumpsuit. "I need some air, Charlie. Is that allowed?" He left before Charlie could answer. The backstage hallways were a maze of cinder block and fluorescent lighting. Elvis moved through them with confidence, his white jumpsuit impossibly bright against the institutional gray. The service elevator was at the end of a long hallway. Elvis pressed the button and waited, listening to the mechanical hum of the cables as the car descended. The doors opened. Inside were 2 young men, boys, really. They were dressed in street clothes. Elvis recognized them immediately. The taller one was Jackie Jackson, the eldest of the performing brothers, and the other one was looking at him with an expression Elvis had seen 1,000 times before. The look of someone who had just encountered something larger than life, something that didn't belong in the ordinary world of elevators and hallways. But there was something else in the boy's eyes too. Something that went beyond mere starstruck wonder. It was recognition. Not of Elvis the legend, but of something deeper, something shared. "You're those Jackson boys," Elvis said. His voice came out softer than he intended. Not the booming performance voice, not the smooth media voice, just his actual voice, the one he rarely used anymore, the one that still carried traces of Tupelo, Mississippi. "Yes, sir," Jackie said, extending his hand with practiced professionalism. "I'm Jackie. This is my brother Michael. We're real honored to meet you, Mr. Presley." Elvis shook his hand, but his eyes stayed on the younger brother, on Michael. The boy was thin, almost fragile-looking, with delicate features and eyes that seemed too large for his face. He looked younger than 15, but his eyes weren't a child's eyes. "Michael," Elvis said, "I've seen you on TV. That thing you do with your feet, that spinning thing." Michael blinked. For a moment he didn't respond, and Elvis wondered if the boy was too overwhelmed to speak. Then, very quietly, he said, "Thank you, sir." Just 2 words. But the voice, even in those 2 words, Elvis heard something that made him pause. There was music in that voice, something that suggested it wasn't just an instrument, but a direct line to somewhere deeper. The elevator doors started to close. Elvis reached out and stopped them. "You going up or down?" he asked. "Up," Jackie said. "We were just going to our rooms. We've got an early call tomorrow, sound check and all that." Elvis stepped into the elevator. The doors closed behind him, sealing the 3 of them in a small box of fluorescent light and silence. For a long moment, no one spoke. Elvis was aware that his security team would be looking for him. He was aware that the colonel would be furious. He didn't care. There was something happening here, something he felt in the same place he felt music, in the same place he felt God. "Your father," Elvis said, looking at Michael. "He manages you, doesn't he?" Michael nodded. Something flickered across his face, there and gone so quickly that Elvis almost missed it. But he didn't miss it. He recognized it. "My manager used to tell me what to eat," Elvis said. "What to wear, who to talk to, how to stand." He paused. "Still does, mostly." Jackie shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the kind of conversation you had with Elvis Presley. This wasn't the polite exchange of pleasantries, the mutual admiration that celebrity encounters were supposed to involve. "It's hard," Elvis continued, his eyes still on Michael. "Isn't it? Being what everyone expects you to be. Performing, smiling, giving them what they want, even when you don't have anything left to give." Michael's lips parted slightly. He seemed to be struggling with something. The instinct to be polite, warring with something deeper that wanted to respond honestly. "Yes, sir," he finally said. "It is hard." Elvis nodded slowly. The elevator continued its ascent, floor numbers lighting up and then going dark. "I was about your age when I started," Elvis said. "Younger, actually. I'm not telling you this because I think my experience is like yours. We come from different places, different circumstances. But some of it's the same," Elvis continued. "The loneliness. The way people look at you like you're not quite real. The way your family changes when money starts coming in. The way you start to forget who you were before all of it." The elevator stopped. The doors opened onto a hallway that looked identical to every other hallway in the hotel. Jackie stepped forward. "This is our floor. It was really great meeting you, Mr. Presley." "Wait." Elvis's voice wasn't loud, but it stopped Jackie mid-sentence. "My daughter," Elvis said. "Lisa Marie. She's here with me. She's about 6 years old. She loves your music. She asked me if she could meet you." Michael's expression shifted. For the first time since the elevator doors had opened, he looked like a 15-year-old boy, rather than a performer trapped in a role he hadn't chosen. "We'd be honored," he said, and his voice was different now, warmer, more present. "To meet her, I mean." Elvis studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Tomorrow, after your show, I'll have my people bring her backstage. You'll meet her then." He stepped out of the elevator, turned, and looked back at the 2 brothers. "You're good," he said to Michael. "What you do, it's real. Don't let anyone take that from you. Don't let them make you into something you're not." The doors closed. Michael stood in the elevator, staring at the place where Elvis had been. His brother was saying something. Words of amazement, of disbelief that they had just spent 5 minutes alone with Elvis Presley. But Michael wasn't listening. He was thinking about the look in Elvis's eyes, not the confidence he showed on stage, not the charisma that had made him the most famous person in the world. Something else. Something that looked like warning. Something that looked like recognition of a shared fate. Something that looked, though Michael wouldn't have had the words for it then, like one caged bird recognizing another. The next night, everything was different. Michael stood in the wings of the High Sierra Theater, waiting to go on. The stage lights were hot and bright, the crowd a murmuring presence beyond the curtain. His brothers were around him, but he felt distant from them, separated by something he couldn't explain. He kept thinking about the elevator, about Elvis's voice, soft and southern and sad, about the way the most famous man in the world had looked at him like they shared a secret. The show ended. The crowd roared. Michael smiled and waved and did everything expected of him. And then, backstage, someone told him that there was a little girl waiting to meet him. She was small, impossibly small, with dark hair and her father's eyes. She was wearing a dress that seemed uncomfortable, and she was holding the hand of a woman Michael didn't recognize. "This is Lisa Marie," the woman said. Her name was Myrna Smith, one of Elvis's backup singers. "She's a big fan." Michael crouched down so that he was at eye level with the girl. "Hi, Lisa Marie," he said. The girl stared at him with an intensity that was startling in someone so young. She didn't smile. She didn't act shy the way children usually did. She just looked at him, studying his face like she was trying to memorize it. "My daddy says you're going to be famous," she said. Michael smiled. "I think I already am famous." "No," Lisa Marie said, with the absolute certainty that only children possess. "More famous. Daddy said you're going to be more famous than anyone." Michael didn't know what to say. He looked up at Myrna, who shrugged apologetically. "Do you like music, Lisa Marie?" "I like your music. I like the dancing. Can you show me how to do the spinning thing?" Michael laughed. A genuine laugh. The first one he could remember in weeks. "The spinning thing takes a lot of practice. I'm good at practicing." They talked for a few more minutes. A strange conversation between a 15-year-old who had forgotten how to be a child and a 6-year-old who had never been allowed to be one. And then it was time for Lisa Marie to go. As she was leaving, she turned back and looked at Michael one more time. "Daddy's sad," she said. "All the time, even when he's smiling." Michael felt something tighten in his chest. "Why are you telling me that?" Lisa Marie thought about it. Then she shrugged. "I don't know. I just thought you should know." And then she was gone. Years later, long after Elvis was dead and buried at Graceland, long after Michael had become the most famous person on the planet, just as Elvis had predicted, he would think about that weekend at the Sahara Tahoe. He would think about the elevator doors opening and seeing Elvis standing there, a god in a white jumpsuit, sweat-soaked and exhausted and unmistakably human. He would think about the way Elvis had looked at him, not as a potential rival or a curiosity, but as a fellow traveler on a road that had no maps and no exits. He would marry Lisa Marie. Decades later, they would stand together in a room and sign papers that made them husband and wife, and the whole world would wonder why. But Michael would know. He would know that it started in an elevator on a May night in 1974, when the king of rock and roll looked at a 15-year-old boy and saw his own reflection staring back. He would know that some connections are made not by shared experiences, but by shared burdens. The weight of being exceptional in a world that worships and destroys its idols with equal enthusiasm. In 2009, when Michael Jackson died at 50, Lisa Marie wrote a blog post that would be quoted around the world. "Years ago," she wrote, "Michael asked me about my father's death. He wanted to know how my father died. The way he asked it, I knew he was worried he would end up the same way." She paused. "I think he knew from the moment he met my father, in that elevator in Lake Tahoe, that their stories would end the same way. Some connections cannot be explained. Some meetings are not random. Some people are bound together by forces that transcend ordinary understanding, by the music they make, by the burdens they carry, by the specific and terrible loneliness of being loved by millions and known by no one." That's the story. Just an elevator, A tired man in a white jumpsuit, a young boy with ancient eyes, and the recognition that passed between them, the understanding that they were, despite everything, the same kind of lonely. The doors opened. Everything changed. And somewhere, in the space between legend and reality, two kings acknowledged each other for the first and last time.